Okay. So tonight, what we're looking at, speaking of Ugo, Choiceless Awareness by Krishnamurti.
Oh, his favorite.
That's right. That's right. His favorite.
Mm.
And what we're looking at is can I discover for myself the activities of my ego? And I think it's just a few short pages, but I think it's fully packed because unless we're able to free ourselves of this me, it's not possible for that which is eternal to come into being. Because the me is filled with clouds, clouds of fear, clouds of self-importance, clouds of lack of compassion, maybe sometimes some compassion. The me is what gets in the way of clarity. And we need clarity. In addition, the me is what fills the mind. And one of the things that Krishnamurti always said was you need a quiet, empty mind. So what did he mean by that? He meant all the chatter that constantly goes on in our mind. He's talking about the psychological emptiness is what's needed here. So it's the chattering, it's the fears, it's the self-doubts, it's all those things that go on in the mind that leave no space, no room for clarity, for emptiness. So in this little chapter, the headline of the chapter is, Can I discover for myself the activities of my ego, this me? And this is what he says. When we are aware of ourselves, is not the whole movement of living a way of uncovering the me, the ego, the self? The self is a very complex process which can be uncovered only in relationship, in our daily activities, in the way we talk, in the way we judge, the way we calculate, the way we condemn others and ourselves. All that reveals the conditioned state of our own thinking. And is it not important to be aware of this whole process? It is only through awareness of what is true from moment to moment that there is discovery of the timeless, the eternal. Without self-knowledge, the eternal cannot be. When we do not know ourselves, the eternal becomes a mere word, a symbol, a speculation, a dogma, a belief, an illusion to which the mind can escape. But if one begins to understand the me in all its various activities from day to day, then in that very understanding, without any effort, the nameless, the timeless comes into being. But the timeless is not a reward for self-knowledge. That which is eternal cannot be sought after. The mind cannot acquire it. It comes into being when the mind is quiet. And the mind can be quiet only when it is simple, when it is no longer storing up, no longer condemning, judging, weighing. It is only the simple mind that can understand the real, not the mind that is full of words, of knowledge, of information, the mind that analyzes, that calculates, is not a simple mind. So, can I be aware of my greed, of my envy, from moment to moment? These feelings are expressions of the me, of the self, are they not? The self is still the self at any level you may place it. Whether it's the highest self or the lowest self, it's still within the field of thought. And can I be aware of these things as they arise from moment to moment? Can I discover for myself the activities of my ego when I'm eating, talking at the table, when I'm playing, when I'm listening, when I'm with a group of people? Can I be aware of the accumulated resentments, of the desire to impress, to be somebody? Can I discover that I am greedy and be aware of my condemnation of greed? The very word greed is a condemnation, isn't it? To be aware of greed is also to be aware of the desire to be free from it and to see why one wants to be free from the whole process. This is not a very complicated procedure. One can immediately grasp the whole significance of it. So one begins to understand from moment to moment this constant growth of the me with its self-importance, its self-projected activities, which is basically, fundamentally, the cause of fear. But you cannot take action to get rid of the cause. All you can do is be aware of it. The moment you want to be free from the ego, that very desire is also part of the ego. So you have a constant battle in the ego over two desirable things: between the part that wants and the part that does not. As one becomes aware at the conscious level, one also begins to discover the envy, the struggles, the desires, the motives, the anxieties that lie at the deeper level of consciousness. When the mind is intent on discovering the whole process of itself, then every incident, every reaction becomes a means of discovery of knowing oneself. That requires patient watchfulness, which is not the watchfulness of a mind that is constantly struggling, that is learning how to be watchful. Then you will see that the sleeping hours are as important as the waking hours, because life then is a total process. As long as you do not know yourself, fear will continue, and all the illusions that the self creates will flourish. Self-knowledge, then, is not a process to be read about or speculated upon. It must be discovered by each one from moment to moment, so that the mind becomes extraordinarily alert. In that alertness, there is a certain quiescence, a passive awareness, in which there is no desire to be, and in which there is an astonishingly sense of freedom. It may be only for a minute, for a second, that's enough. That freedom is not of memory. It's a living thing. But the mind, having tasted it, reduces it to a memory and then wants more of it. To be aware of this total process is possible only through self-knowledge. And self-knowledge comes into being from moment to moment as we watch our speech, our gestures, the way we talk, and the hidden motives that are suddenly revealed. Then only is it possible to be free from fear. As long as there is fear, there is no love. Fear darkens our being, and that fear cannot be washed away by any prayer, by any ideal or activity. The cause of fear is the me, which is so complex in its desires, in its wants and pursuits. The mind has to understand that whole process, and the understanding of it comes only when there is watchfulness without choice. So, you see why it's so fully packed. Mm-hmm. So he's saying, you really can't say, I want to be free of this me, because that which says, I want to be free of the me, is the me. So that's not going to do it. But the awareness that he's talking about, is not the awareness that comes with the me that says, I'm going to be aware. The awareness he's talking about is coming from a mind that's silent. And in that silence, there's a spotlight that shines on our activities, on the activities of the me that we've identified ourselves with. So you see, it's like quite beautiful, because he's pointing to that which we fundamentally are, that in us that never changes. He's pointing to that choiceless awareness, and he calls it choiceless because there's no choice made in that awareness, because it's free of any kind of past ideas, thinking, past judgments, past beliefs. It's a free awareness. It's pure. It's choiceless. And when that choiceless awareness shines that light that is our true nature, that's what we fundamentally are, once this me dissolves itself. And of course, Many teachers tell us that the me doesn't even actually exist. However, it is an appearance in our consciousness. And for us, it's very real. And we know that this me is what causes us mostly pain and suffering. So, yeah.
It's the identification with the me.
Yes.
And I'm reminded when you were speaking how Ira constantly makes the point, and he likes to do that thing with his hand,
Yeah.
where you must turn your attention inward, that the mind and all the senses are so used to being extroverted,
Right.
involved with uh, the external objects, or all the thoughts and fantasies, all the emotions. And there has to be like a turning attention inward to do that's the watching that Krishnamurti is talking about.
Yes. Yes. However, we have to be careful that when there is an awareness of the activities of this me, as soon, and this is what he said, as soon as there's any kind of condemnation of it or judgment of it, then you're back in the me.
Sure.
Because pure awareness, choiceless awareness, is free of any judgment, any condemnation. So it has that clarity, it sees. And he also says, the seeing is the doing. So once you see it, that's it. Now, once you see it, you immediately pull the invisible plug on it. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come up again. This me, that's an appearance in our consciousness, is not going away so easily. But Krishnamurti is saying, if you are alert and you watch it, and I like what he says, you can watch it, especially its movements in relationship, in relationship with another person, in relationship to your work, in relationship to your beliefs, in relationship. That's where you see this me, this past coming up. And it's wonderful because it's such a wonderful pointer. And especially, when you're with a group of people, let's say you're with a group of friends, you're having dinner with a group of friends, and you start having a conversation, and somebody says something that generates a reaction in you, maybe of annoyance, some reaction in you that's uncomfortable. Because there's that immediate reaction, there's a tendency to immediately respond, and all of a sudden, something pleasant becomes a little heated. However, having this awareness that that there's a watching of the me, then one sees, there is a seeing of the arising of this uncomfortable feeling. And you immediately know that's the ego. It's responding to something, and it probably wants to fight or to be right or to prove a point. And why? Why can't we just let it go? Or just, if you can't let it go, to see that you can't let it go. Just to see the activity that's going on. And I love how he says, you don't have to do anything with it. It's just about observation. Just like a scientist whether that scientist is in the jungle watching animals like Bill, or the scientist is looking at the planets. It's just an observation of what's going on. And then there's a clarity of what needs to be done in the situation or not. So I just think it's so helpful because, in many teachings, they talk about purifying the mind. Well, what's a better way of purifying the mind than watching the impure mind at work and pulling the plug on it? Well, the plug gets pulled automatically when the seeing is the doing. So he says, can I be aware of my greed, of my envy from moment to moment? Can I be aware of my fear? When we say my, the arising of fear, the arising of envy, or whatever that emotion or feeling is. And yes, when it is seen, when there is a seeing, when awareness sees, suddenly one becomes aware of even deeper feelings. And then suddenly there's a motivation arise, an understanding of a motivation. This person said something that offended me, the me. Oh, then what becomes aware is what it offended was the image that I have of myself. And it's the image that was offended that got hurt. And one becomes aware of this. This is especially true with fear. It's really important to have an awareness when the fear arises. I think especially when one is diagnosed with an illness or possible illness, the mode that the mind goes into, picturing the worst, preparing for the worst, feeding the fear, the inability to stay clear and as calm as can be so one knows the right activity to take to help oneself in that situation. But there again, the me interferes and paralyzes us to some extent. Now, what's interesting are those moments when there is no me, and we've all experienced that. Those moments of pure joy, those moments of pure beauty, those moments of pure goodness, especially the goodness when you see it in another person.
Mhm.
In those moments, there is no me. And that's when creativity is born. So, any, did you want to add anything? Any comments? Any questions?
Yeah, I think Evie, for me, most frequently when I feel like the me is sort of vacated for a bit is listening to music,
Mm,
and also when I'm involved in some activity that requires thinking or full focus,
Yeah.
and then you realize that there's just you and what you're focusing on,
Hmm.
and really just the activity of that's happening.
Hmm.
For example, doing some surgeries on animals
yes.
in Zimbabwe, that feeling would come up now and again, where
Well,
it's just me and the surgery, and the surgery almost getting done by itself.
well, that's interesting there.
Consciousness functions, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
So you're saying at that moment, there's no me. How can there be? Otherwise,
yeah. Well, there's always, I hope I don't screw up, and you know,
that's
that those
before.
thoughts will circulate. But when you put those aside, you realize it's just, that everything is just fine. It's just the activity that's happening.
That's
mhm,
right. And once you're in that activity, then those thoughts are not circulating. Once
Yeah,
you're in the actual action,
yeah,
because then there's no separation between you and that action.
that's right. And that's probably why I like going back so much year after year. Are these moments that really are our joy? They're just joyful moments.
right.
Yes.
So I
That's
think that's reason I keep going back.
Yeah,
well, I think
definitely.
that's wonderful.
Sure.
That's right. That's right. You are part of that.
Mhm.
That's you, that
Yeah.
joy. Yeah, that's great.
A joyous expression of self.
Yeah, well, and look at and the animals are benefiting from
Huh,
this.
sure. Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mother Teresa was always praised for being such a huge humanitarian and so forth. But her view of it was that she was just doing what needed to be done.
Right.
She wasn't doing it to be a great person or a holy person. This work that just needed to be done, and she did it.
And that,
So,
that's right. That's right. It just needed to be done.
yeah,
Right. Hmm. Yeah. So this is what he was talking about tonight. It's really an interesting pointer to a path that we can all take. And we have the equipment for it.
Hmm.
It's built into us.
Hmm.
Pure awareness. And that is what's considered our true nature.
And of course, he's talking about witnessing,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
The observing, the
That's
seeing
right.
is the doing, the seeing is the
The
witnessing,
seeing is that's right.
being an impartial witness.
That's seeing without the me.
Mhm.
So so some people say, what do you mean seeing without the me? How am I gonna go about my life? Oh, maybe with more clarity, more alertness, more compassion. because you're free of all the prejudices, the beliefs, the divisions that tear us apart. You can proceed with an open heart. And Krishnamurti always said, then where there's clarity, there's compassion, and there's skill in action. So there's a benefit to seeing without the me, but he also warns, be careful, don't do this because you want to benefit, because then that's the ego comes back
Sneaking
into
back
the
in, right.
picture.
Mhm.
It's really a calling, almost a calling. Yeah, I want to see, and that's the me talking. I want to see how the me operates and when it operates in daily life, moment to moment. There's really a desire for self-knowledge without wanting anything from it. Just that's enough in itself, the desire for self-knowledge.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions or comments, I guess we'll end it here for tonight. Okay?
Great.
Okay?
Thanks,
All right.
Evie. Thanks,
Good.
Paul. Thanks,
Thank
Philip.
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Thanks,
Phil.
all for
Lisa.
coming.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul and Evie.
Thank you,
Good
Chet.
night.
Bye-bye.